Zach was an ugly bullet orphan child who was nearly burned to death by his stepdad at a young age and was adopted by abusive cannibals that fed him the bodies of dead children every day. Throughout the years, he would get beaten as he buried the bodies of his childhood friends, but when he saw the skull of his brother after he was eaten alive, his mind began breaking down. So when he watched a movie that night about a serial killer approaching a couple in the forest before killing them, his sanity finally snapped, and he realized this was all he needed to do. As his disgusting parents were sleeping, he grabbed a knife from the kitchen while walking towards their room and stood over his father's body before stabbing him to death. All the years of abuse he endured drove him to kill both of his useless foster parents, but he couldn't help but smile as he had finally regained his freedom. After leaving his prison, he began walking aimlessly until a car splashed him, but when the lady came to apologize, she realized that he was holding a bloody knife and told him that he should hurry back to his house. However, Zach told her that he's never had a home, and as the scenes of the movie flashed in his mind, he decided to take her life as well, before going inside of her car to sleep for the night. When the morning arrived, a senile elderly man approached his car and began knocking on the window, wondering if someone was in there. As Zach opened the door ready to kill him, the old man asked Zach if he was camping with his parents, saying that he was blind so he couldn't tell. So when Zach's stomach growled, the man realized he was starving, so he brought him back to his house before inviting him inside. While he ate, the man wondered how he was lost in the forest, and told him that he could stay with him until they found his family. When Zach wondered why he was helping him, the man revealed that it was because he was lonely, and that he hadn't talked to anyone in years. That night, a deep desire began preventing Zach from falling asleep, and he realized that his knife was the only way to satisfy himself. But as he began walking toward the old man's bed, he realized that killing him wouldn't be satisfying. So he decided to walk inside the city's alleys at night. A few moments later, when a random loser bumped past him, Zach pulled out his knife and stabbed the man, killing him in that instant. However, the urge continued nagging at him, but with his knife doled out, he decided that it was now worthless, just like his life. After getting back home, the old man smelled the scent of blood and wondered where he had disappeared off to, so Zach revealed that he killed a man to satisfy his desires. When the old man heard his words, he asked him what he wanted to do now and covered Zach up, telling him to sleep peacefully. In the morning, the old man left the house, but even when the night came, he had still never returned. On the table, Zach saw a letter saying that he went to grab milk, but he couldn't figure out what it said since he never learned how to read. Hours began passing, and Zach started losing his mind thinking he was abandoned once again, and destroyed the entire house until he found a knife amongst all the rubble. Throughout the forest, he began walking until he found a group of people next to a police car, and saw the body of his old man covered underneath. At the same time, a disgusting couple were glad they killed the broke grandpa for a few quarters, but when they saw Zach staring at them, the man told Zach to get his ugly face out of his sight. However, Zach saw they looked happy, and realized that all this time, it was happy-looking people that satisfied his urge. So he pulled out his knife as the man fell to the ground, and stabbed him to death before rushing towards his girlfriend. He killed both of them that night, but all he could think about was the old man asking him what he wanted to do. So he answered that he wanted to destroy the happy people enjoying their lives, and make them fall into despair. He knew that he was a monster, but wished that the old man, the only person who cared about him his entire life, wouldn't have died. However, Zach wasn't the only one who endured the abuse of horrible parents, because during the following years, a young girl called Rachel would come back home to her alcoholic dad, who screamed at her for being mentally ill and would beat her mother before her eyes. However, she would laugh hysterically at all of it, and no matter how many times Rachel asked them to listen to her, neither of them would. That night, her mother promised to make him scream, and when Rachel tried asking her to listen, she slapped her face, saying she was the reason for being trapped inside this hell. Even so, Rachel tried asking for her to listen once again, but her mother screamed at her to just go inside of her room. Months later, Rachel would reveal inside a mental hospital that she just wanted to take care of a sick puppy, but after she saw the puppy pass out, all she remembered was being in her room, fixing that puppy. After she had fixed the poor dog, her father screamed at his wife once again, and as she walked downstairs, she heard her mother screaming for her life. But when she opened the door, she saw her mother's lifeless body. Once her father noticed she saw everything, he said that she would be next, and although Rachel tried running away, her father began chasing her until she got inside of her room and locked the door. She tried telling the puppy to not be scared, but her father broke through the door, saying that she was just as crazy as him for the way she killed the puppy and stitched it, also that she could make the dog hers. As he laughed at how crazy all of them were, he told her that no one would ever miss her, but she pulled out a gun and aimed it at her father, saying it was her mother's gun.
私の理想の家族になって。
After telling the doctor that story, however, he hypnotized her to erase all of her memories, and she woke up in an isolated hospital, wondering why she was in a completely different place. As she walked out of the room, she heard the sound of an elevator opening, and after entering inside, the PA system announced that the sacrifice had been selected. Eventually, she arrived at a floor called the play area, but as she walked around trying to find the exit, she heard the sound of glass breaking, so she started running away after realizing someone was following her. As she kept running, she saw the stains of blood on the ground along with a bird that was injured. But after saying that she would treat it, a blast from the wall killed the bird. Zach came out laughing, glad that her hopeful face had turned into despair, and said that he would give her 3 seconds to run away screaming for her life. As he began counting, Rachel tried running away, but Zach began chasing after her until she arrived inside an abandoned storage room. After looking around for where to hide, Zach had managed to catch up to her, and once he entered the room, he wondered where she was hiding. So he began piercing his scythe into all of the crates, narrowly missing her body before realizing that she was hiding somewhere else. As he walked outside, Rachel knew that she needed to get away before he found her, but when she got back to see the bird, the life in her eyes disappeared, and she swore that she would fix the bird, saying that he will become hers forever. After sewing the bird up, she began running back towards the elevator, but Zach had managed to find her, saying that he wouldn't give her any more time to escape. As he leapt to slash her, she ducked down and tried running away, but Zach continued laughing hysterically and rushed after her. But even as the elevator opened, he continued closing the distance, until she narrowly managed to close the gates before he tore her apart, and the elevator began moving her upstairs. A few moments later, she arrived on the 2nd floor, and saw that she was back inside the hospital she recognized. From the dark hallway, she heard the sound of a man running towards her, so she began trying to escape. But the man caught up, saying he was Danny, the doctor who'd been counseling her. As she looked at his face, she wondered if he was really the same person, and Zach saw the way she had stitched up the dead bird. At the same time, the doctor told Rachel that he'd been waiting for her and took her to a dark room, where he told her that he wanted her perfect eyes. So he grabbed her hand and started dragging her to an operating room, saying that he wanted to take a look at her eyes, and that they were as beautiful as his mother's dead eyes. He remembered the day his mother isekai'd herself, and said that he would do anything for her eyes, but he needed her to look for something first in the back room. As she entered inside, she saw hundreds of jars filled with eyeballs, and as Danny appeared from behind, he told her that he was looking for the eyes behind her. So after she gave it to him, he told her to not run away, because she'd regret it. After leaving the room, Rachel realized that she needed to find a way out, and after seeing a crowbar on the ground, she began trying to open the door. But as soon as it opened, she realized that Danny was standing behind her. He told her that this was his floor, and that he would never allow her beautiful eyes to escape away from him, so he promised to take her eyes away for himself. As he began dragging her back to the table, he said that he would rip those eyes out, but she begged him to stop before giving up, saying that she wanted to go back to her parents. So Danny promised that she would meet her parents soon, since they were waiting for her in hell. In that moment, the memories of her dead family finally reappeared in her mind. But as the doctor tried asking her to respond to him, she stopped saying anything. After seeing the depressing look on her face, he said that he would finally have her eyes to himself. But in that moment, a scythe stabbed deep into his body, and Zach had managed to kill Danny, glad that he was able to end the life of another happy victim. However, he was ready to kill Rachel, and told her to run away and struggle for her life. But as he pulled his scythe towards her neck, he realized that she wasn't screaming at all, and wondered if she wanted to live. At that moment, a bell began ringing, saying that one of the rules had been violated, making Zach the new sacrifice. After hearing those words, he realized that he should start running, but once he was gone, Rachel's memories flashed again, and she realized that she shouldn't be alive. As Zach tried breaking through the elevator door, Rachel began approaching him, saying that she had a favor to ask, and as she looked into his eyes, she asked him to kill her. When he heard those words, Zach wondered if this psycho bitch was crazier than him, and told her to stop saying things that were more disgusting than his burnt-up face. However, she asked him if he would eliminate her after she opened the door, but he pushed her away and told her to get them out first. So she began walking back, and after finding the doctor's body, she remembered him saying that it was his floor, so she began searching his clothes. As Zach kept pounding on the door, it opened at that moment, and Rachel revealed that the key was inside of the doctor's pockets. Seeing that she was smart, he promised to fulfill her wish and end her life if she would help him get out, hoping that her face would be better for killing by then. Hearing those words gave her hope, and she promised to do her best. As he began walking away, he asked what her name was, so she introduced herself as Rachel Gardner, and the serial killer introduced himself as Zach. When they arrived onto the 3rd floor, she realized there was something inside of the water, but Zach told her to keep moving. Before long, they arrived at a graveyard, and Rachel began staring at a hole, wishing she could just be buried already. But Zach was creeped out by her horrendous face and screamed at her to return to her senses. As they arrived at another graveyard, Rachel began to read the inscription on a stone and realized that the gravestones were for all the people that have been killed. Just then, she noticed a separate gravestone and realized that her name has been inscribed on it. At the same time, she spotted another grave, and they realized it was being prepared for Zach. However, he thought he could defile death and tried to destroy it, but Rachel told him that he would only break his scythe. At that moment, she discovered an opening in the wall, so she told him to try and find the exit in the meantime. But he told her to try and fix her useless face. However, as she was about to head inside, she told him not to destroy her grave, so she can lay inside when he was ready to kill her. But her words made Zach shiver. While she walked through the corridor, she discovered that the door has been locked at the end. But she noticed the letter and realized that whoever wrote it had prepared the grave for her. Meanwhile, Zach was entirely clueless about finding an exit. But as his grave made him restless, he spotted a pickaxe and decided to destroy it. As he successfully broke the edge, he started wrecking the rest of the gravestones. Luckily, a rock fell on a switch and unlocked the door in the corridor, so Rachel opened it, but wondered if the brain-dead moron intentionally figured it out on his own. As she walked through the new corridor, she arrived at a room and began hearing a mysterious voice. Noticing a register, she decided to take a look and discovered that it was a record of everyone that has been killed in the building. Just then, she came across her own record, but wasn't even flinched by it. On the other hand, Zach continued his devastation of the graves, but soon realized that only Rachel's gravestone was left. The memory of her stern warning made him afraid, so he threw away the pickaxe. Right then, she appeared before him and noticed the destruction, but as she revealed the documents, saying that they contained all of their information, Zach told her that they were irrelevant. However, she showed him his own document and began reading about an Isaac Foster being entered into an illegal orphanage that abused him until the day his parents died. Before she could keep going, Zach wondered how she felt after reading that and revealed that his real name was Isaac Foster, asking her if she was afraid of him. But when she told him that she wasn't, he revealed that a different girl had once said the same thing, because inside a dark alley one night, he had managed to catch up to a girl and asked her if she was afraid of him. However, she said that she was actually his fan, and went on to say that it was an honor meeting him here after all this time. As she tried saying that he was manly and began caressing him, he grabbed her by the head and shoved her onto the ground, asking her what the fuck she was talking about. So he gave her 5 seconds to run away, but after catching up to her once again, he wondered why she would run if she wasn't afraid. However, she revealed that anyone would be afraid of being killed and cried for someone to save her. But Zach said that he hated lies and ended her life. Rachel wondered what the fuck this depressing ass story had to do with her and said she can start running if it meant he'd kill her. Zach remembered this bitch was a psycho, so he decided to destroy her gravestone, telling her that she wouldn't die here. But she grew sad realizing she wouldn't die yet. Hoping to make her feel better, he told her that he would put her out of her misery once he was safe outside of this building. So he returned to the elevator, and as he realized he couldn't open it, Rachel told him to look inside the water, hoping he would find a switch for it. Desperate to leave, Zach began looking through the water, but Rachel thought he has no true intention of killing her. When he wondered why she wouldn't do so herself, she told him that it was a terrible sin, and said that it was because God said it, so it must be true. After hearing those words, however, Zach told her to show some emotion, saying that it would motivate him to end her life. But when she couldn't even pretend to be afraid, he realized she was already dead on the inside. Just then, he stepped on a switch, and as a door opened in the corridor, Rachel decided to see what was inside. Before long, she came across a letter and flour and wondered who put them here. At the same time, Zach grew tired of waiting in the water, but as the lights went out at that instant, a mysterious kid appeared before him. The kid wondered why he destroyed the graves, as he thought his own grave was a perfect fit for him. However, Zach was creeped out by the thought of it and tried to slay him, but he jumped away. As the kid revealed that his name is Eddie, he managed to evade his scythe before dodging again. So he began saying that he's fallen in love with Rachel and revealed that he intends to make the perfect grave for her as he thought she was his missing piece. But Zach told him the only thing missing was his useless brain.
What did he say?
However, Eddie was certain that she was perfect for him and told Zach that he would put her out of her misery. Angered by his words, Zach tried to attack him, but he vanished off into the darkness. Meanwhile, Rachel discovered that the final door has been unlocked, so she decided to use a flashlight and found another letter inside. Just then, Eddie appeared behind her, saying that he came to grant her death wish and would gladly isekai her ass because he thought Zach was too weak and useless to do the job. On the other hand, Zach began screaming for Rachel as he thought the weird kid may try to persuade her into ditching him, so he decided to find another way around. At the same time, Rachel started backing into the wall as Eddie continued trying to persuade her, but she told him that she already promised herself to Zach. Just then, Zach arrived at the opposite side of the wall, so Eddie told her to choose one final time whom she wishes would end her life. As she nearly chose him, Zach banged on the wall and began screaming that he's the only one who could kill her and even swore to God that he would. So after asking him if he really swore to God, he told her that he did and that she needed to stay alive until then, so she begged him to break through the wall. With a strike, Zach destroyed the wall and entered through the opening. But as they noticed that Eddie was gone, Zach screamed at Rachel to make herself useful to him if she wanted to die. But she wondered if he really meant those words. She told him that he swore to God and kept repeating the words to God, asking him to swear to God that he'll kill her over and over, so he pushed her away, saying that he really hated nothing more than lies. However, they needed to find the Eddie kid first, so Rachel said that he was down the hall, and they began to leave. Before long, they arrived at the end of the corridor, but realized that Eddie was already waiting for them. As he began asking how he could possibly persuade her, he jumped at her with his shovel, but Zach blocked his attack, and he leapt away. Unwilling to accept defeat, Eddie attacked again, but jumped back just in time. At that moment, the lights went out, so he vanished into the darkness, but started smacking Zach as he disappeared before his eyes. With Zach growing desperate, he told Rachel to find the light switch, so she hurried away, but Eddie dodged another attack before retreating into the darkness. As Rachel decided to hide behind a gravestone, she noticed a beautiful burial that was already prepared for her. Just as she admired it, Eddie knocked the wind out of her and began saying that he would give her a good burial once she agrees to die. However, as he raised his shovel to end her, she fell into the hole, and the useless rotten creep thought he could finally kill her. Immediately, she shined her light at him and shoved him into the headstone before grabbing his remote, successfully turning the lights back on, and Zach smacked the ugly mask off before sending him to Nirvana. As he tried saying that the grave would have been a perfect fit for Rachel, Zach pushed the headstone on his body, burying him forever. With the creep finally gone, Zach wondered how they would find the elevator, so Rachel pushed a button on the remote, and they realized it was behind the waterfall. So they headed inside, and it ascended to another floor. As the elevator opened, they realized they were in another unfamiliar place. When Rachel discovered the gate was locked, she told Zach that the building was probably empty. However, he said it was their only way out and tried to break the cell, but realized it was too solid. At that moment, the alarm went off, but Zach saved her as a machine gun fired. When its bullets ran out, they started hearing a voice over the PA system, and a useless creepy girl announced that she's been waiting for their arrival. She told them that she's the judge of this floor, and said that she would be punishing them for all their sins, so the gate opened at that instant. As they arrived at a locked door, the girl commanded them to take their mug shots like every other worthless criminal. By the time they were done, they noticed the exit, but as they arrived inside a dark room, they saw the ugly, creepy drawings on the walls, and the girl announced that each drawing represents their punishment. Hoping to find the exit, Zach decided to check another room, but discovered that it was filled with ugly, creepy puppets, so he told Rachel to find an exit. However, as he began to lose his patience, he noticed a wooden chair and decided to take a seat like it was his throne. As Rachel tried telling him that it was an electric chair, the lights went out, and Zach realized he was strapped in. Just then, a TV appeared before them, and the useless creepy girl welcomed them to her floor. Her name was Kathy, and she revealed that she would be playing judge for their crimes. As she stepped on a button, the chair electrocuted Zach, nearly frying his useless brain. But she turned it off. Rachel wondered if he was dead already, but he began threatening to kill the nutcase once he was free. However, she revealed that he would only be